Were we paid by Justin Baldoni to smear Blake Lively? Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore, and the answer is no, no celebrity pays us. My goodness. This is getting crazy, guys, and I couldn't think of anybody else I'd rather speak to than Kirsty's back. Welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you, Andy. Thank you so much for having me back. I am doing well. It's been a crazy
It's a little
couple of
crazy
days.
out there right now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Totally.
glad you're here because look, there's a lot to digest. In fact, I have so much to say. Like I don't even know where to begin. So I'm going to save a lot of my thoughts for our live, where I'm going to be live in about an hour, going through the lawsuit with you because I really do think it's important you read it all. And I want to hear from you, but I do want to correct something because Kirsty, I don't know about you. I made a video earlier where I was really hesitating based just off of TMZ's headlines, and I shouldn't have done that because in reading the actual lawsuit, I do have a lot of questions for Justin. If a lot of this stuff is accurate and true, and it sounds like there were contracts signed, agreements made, witnesses, if all that did happen and Justin did the things implied in here, it was inappropriate. It would be deemed as sexual harassment, and he's going to have some explaining to do. And honestly, there's also a lot of manipulation and clear sort of, I want to end her type of stuff that I don't understand what could justify it, to be perfectly honest. It's pretty vindictive in here. And so I want to make it very clear. I don't support Justin Baldoni in this, if true. I never really did. I never really knew who he was. I know you didn't either, but I want to get that out right away. And reading this fully, which I urge you all to do along with us later, I have concerns and questions about him. And I know a lot of people are like, Team Justin, screw you, Blake. Maybe pump the brakes a little bit because he definitely isn't most innocent. At the same time, as I say all that, I still don't like Blake Lively. And nothing I did, Kirsty, was based on Justin Baldoni.
No.
My reactions and my reporting on her were based on her own actions. And so just to get this preamble out of the way, I think it's safe to dislike them both. I think that's where I'm at. But I'm curious because now you're being roped into as someone who was involved in this smear campaign. You're in this lawsuit. You're mentioned. If you guys don't remember, Kirsty did the whole interview, the awkward interview that made me want to quit my job. I've seen you getting hate out there. It's not right. I saw the New York Times piece that was really calling you out, and it wasn't fair of them. It's this one. It wasn't fair of them to put this out there. Now you corrected them, but how has all this been, and what is your reaction? And I guess my first question I got to ask, were you paid by their team?
No, that is my first answer. And to the rest of your questions here, I mean, when I read the article in New York Times on Saturday, my boyfriend actually read it to me and he said, "Oh my God, you're going to get dragged into this. This is huge." And I was like, what is happening now? And yeah, I saw that it was very clearly insinuated in the article in the New York Times that I was working with Baldoni's team, which is a pure like speculation, and it is a conspiracy theory. And I was really upset that the journalist at the New York Times didn't contact me and ask me about this, like let me have a comment and let me have a say in this, because these are serious allegations. Yeah, so I reached out to them and I told them, you need to do something about this article. It's not right. It's not fair. I had nothing to do with it. And then they updated it
To this
yesterday.
section right here, yeah.
Yeah, that I had nothing to do with it, or I'm saying I have nothing to do with it. But it's still the public, people who read it, they thought so, and they still think so. I'm so glad I'm not on X, because I heard people there are slandering me and saying that I was paid and whatever. So, but I'm
They're
not
saying
looking at all of that.
F you to all the publicists. They're
Yeah.
all assuming you're involved. But
Yeah.
look, and I trust you. I've been lucky enough to speak to you privately since all this. You've been so kind to us, and I could just tell. I have a pretty good judge of character. You really just got thrusted into a weird viral tornado. And now the reality is the team could have amplified your video or any of our videos as well behind the scenes. Like you can buy more attention or views on these videos, and I'm sure that happens from time to time. But I don't know about you, but I had no idea of any of that happening to mine or yours. But I had no involvement. I don't sense you really did have any involvement. I don't see why you wouldn't, because even in watching your content and your follow-ups, you weren't pro Justin Baldoni. Neither of us really were.
I
That's
never
what's
even
weird.
mentioned him, and I don't think I mentioned his name in any of my videos. I don't know who he was. Yeah, I didn't know anything about
Well, you
him.
never released that video, right? That video was never even public.
What video?
The one with this one you sort of, or did you, was this already previously out? Like my point is, how would they have found this? It's just weird. Like
the Blake Lively interview, you mean?
Yeah.
No, that it was published on a Norwegian website. So someone could have found it there and posted it. That could have happened, but instead I posted it myself, and people are like, "Oh, it's so suspicious. You waited so long to post it." And I had my reasons to wait, as I talked about before on my channel as well. The reason I didn't post it before is that I felt that times have changed a little bit. The social landscape is a little different. I think people are more open to seeing, different perspectives now, and that the celebrity is not always, to be worshipped. And my interview showed a different side of a celebrity, that they were not behaving very well, and that's why I posted it. And I'm a journalist,
People reacted fairly because her and Parker Posey, to be fair, both of them were incredibly rude. It's weird that this now I feel gaslit. I got to be honest, based on this lawsuit and particularly the New York Times piece, it all just feels like they're trying to imply that we were involved in a smear machine, that we all were. Like now, while we don't get mentioned Popcorn Planet, Kirsty doesn't really get mentioned a lot, but it's mentioned in a footnote. But still, the way it's all written, it's like her PR campaign machine, these publicists like get all the credit for everything that happened. And I'm just offended by that. I'm like, they don't, it doesn't work that way. Like, sure, you can fan the flame a little bit. You can create some accounts or bots and things, and you can do that sort of stuff. But the content's actually got to be good and real for it to go somewhere. And the reality was your interview and some of the other stuff that was getting pulled, which maybe they pulled some of it and put it on a TikTok somewhere. That's possible. In which case that could still be retaliation, and Justin and these people could be on the hook. But still, we're reacting to stuff that showed Blake in a bad light. And even beyond that, it was the way she was marketing it, which she does claim in this lawsuit was she's trying to play like, well, that's what they were told me to do. In which case, if that's really accurate, I might have some questions. She says at a point on here that she was merely doing the way they were told to. And then Justin deviated during the shoot, during the PR, the promotion aspect. And he started making more serious because he was paying attention, trying to play like he cared more about survivors than she did. And that was all they're doing, that they were trying to make her look bad. And look, if they can prove that, then shame on them, because they really were trying to paint her the bad guy, and that would be bad. But she didn't have to promote her booze company, Kirsty, right? Like, why did she connect her own booze company to a film about domestic violence? It makes no sense. She didn't have to be so rude and bully and mean girly. Like, there was just a lot of stuff that we were reacting to that I think the audience reacted to that was genuinely frustrated with her and reacting in real time, and had nothing to do with a smear campaign. Do you disagree?
No, I totally agree with you. And I think what they're doing now, to me, her team, by insinuating that I was a part of this, is they're trying to discredit me as a journalist so that people will look differently at that interview and what went on in there. And they'll be like, oh, but she is paid, so that's not really real. That's how I feel about it now. And that's why I think they dragged me into it, because, I think my interview was damaging to her image, obviously, and by discrediting me or smearing me, that gives more credit to her.
Right. And it makes me wonder if I assume she thinks you're in on it. And that's probably part of the reason she didn't take my advice and just reach out to you and do an interview. I think if she had, she could have actually reversed this press and proven that it wasn't all a smear campaign, but that wouldn't have helped, because then she'd have to take accountability and admit she was rude to you. And that, to me, is I think her failure here. Like, sure, she can do this lawsuit, and sure, Justin can also still be a jerk. It could all be true. They can all be wrong. At the same time, I don't think this is going to help her clean her image up. I think if anything, this could make it worse in a weird way.
I think so too.
I think this is going to make Hollywood afraid to work with her.
Yeah.
Because again, some of this stuff is fairly inappropriate and harassment, but honestly, some of it's also strange. Like, the context matters. There was an incident in here. I share one, and we'll go through it live in a little bit. So join us if you see us live. You really should read it all, guys. But context matters. And like, they talked, the headlines make it sound like Justin was sharing inappropriate videos of his wife to Blake without her asking, but it was actually his producer who shared a birthing video of his wife during the birthing scene as, I guess, motivation or something he was trying to convey. it's weird and odd, and he shouldn't have done that without her permission. I'm not claiming it's appropriate, but at the same time, it is weird. Films and sets like that, and acting and love scenes and things like it's weirder. The lines can often be stranger, where it might seem fair in the context to be like, hey, my wife and I share this, and I want you to see how it really looks like. Here it is. And then she's like, whoa. Like, the reality is, like, it can be both inappropriate and innocent in a way that I think we have to, context matters, right? And there's a lot of this that I'm reading, and it's a lot of, well, what's the other side's stance on this? Like, sure, you're positioning all this, and most lawyers I've spoken to this all agree this is more of a press release than an actual lawsuit. They're most likely going to settle. Half of this won't hold up in court. And it's shocking to see that all these text messages got leaked because they say it's from a subpoena. From what? This is the first lawsuit. Where would this have come from? Someone leaked these messages, and I'm sure someone is getting reamed at like crazy right now. And there will probably be other lawsuits trying to figure out where all this came from. This is going to be a mess. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, context matters. And this is clearly going to have a ramification for future PR campaigns. Like, just because Justin's team took a gig to amplify negative things about Blake that were true, does that mean it's retaliation and now suable? Like, this could change the game in Hollywood, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think in regards to the intimate scenes that they were filming as well, where does the line go? It says in the script that they're kissing. Does that mean that he cannot kiss her more than 3 times? Can he not bite her lip? These are passionate scenes. I don't know about these things. I've never seen these contracts, but I think it is a little, it's interesting. And I think we need to look at all the, I feel like we don't have enough information yet to actually make an opinion about any of this. But I'm very curious to see how he will respond. I have to
100%.
say that I'm sure it's going to get really, really messy.
Yeah, well, given how aggressive and vindictive he was during it, I can only imagine how angry and crazy it is behind the scenes right now. And I do want to hear from him, give him a chance. But one last thing on the intimacy stuff, like, that's now why there's intimacy coordinators, and clearly that's important to sort of really make the rules and the lines clear. And I support that. And every actor should have a choice to say, I want that or I don't. I've seen other actors sort of be annoyed by intimacy coordinators because they feel like it takes away the rawness of the scene of, like, I want to get into the moment and let it be improvisational. And they sort of pull me down and always asking me, and I'm like, leave me alone. I'm having a set, like, let me get into it. So it really varies per person. Some people are more open. Some people are more reserved, right? And so I think that's what's complicated here. And you got to keep that in mind of, like, look, Justin seemingly did some inappropriate things. I can't deny that based on what I read. I want to hear his response, to be fair. At the same time, I think he should also be aware, like, clearly, dude, this doesn't look good. And you need to explain some stuff. At the same time, I also think Blake is definitely also doing the same tactic she's accusing him of. And I think it's a bit hypocritical. Doing this over Christmas feels vindictive like crazy. I think she wanted to ruin him too. And at the same time, if he really was orchestrating stuff, and I don't know what, that's the other thing. And I want to end you on this. Like, what are the specifics that they actually did? Like, just putting out a tweet or a thread or a TikTok doesn't mean that they're then responsible for all of our other reporting. Yeah. Like, that's what's strange. They're sort of trying to be vague and, like, all of it is connected under this umbrella, but it's not. And I don't get payrolled up by that company and take me to court and prove it, because you won't find anything. But that's what they're implying. And honestly, it's probably why folks like me and you aren't really in this suit as much, because they know they can't prove it. And they're being a little sneaky in sort of the vagueness. Do you sense that?
No, for sure. And I mean, they mentioned my name in there, but there was no context around it. It was just that Blake, there was some headline that she had snarked at me or something like that, but that was it. They didn't say anything more in that legal document, because they know that they have no, there's no evidence anywhere of this happening. It's just insinuations, because it will fit their narrative perfectly. And also that's why they planted that insinuation in the New York Times. And I think that was really bad of New York Times. I thought that was lazy journalism from the New York Times, that they didn't actually do more research on that and check on it. It was a stupid, like, conspiracy theory that, that they reported on. And then I think that's pretty bad and shocking to me, I have to say.
Oh, I mean, I'm not shocked anymore. This is why all the news is dying, because they're all manipulated. That's the problem. It's like, well, look, we make mistakes, but then we come here and we talk to you and we clear it up immediately, right? Yeah. But they can't. they can't go and correct it because then they would be liable. And there's a whole bunch of stuff. And Megan Twohey, who I used to like from time to time, is a Me Too reporter. And she should have done her due diligence here, even more so to contact you or say we reached out and didn't get comment, whatever. But this implication through you, she better have receipts and prove us wrong and expose you, or else shame on her. Exactly. Like, to me, that's the big problem here. Otherwise, they're doing exactly what they're alleging Justin of doing.
Exactly.
But now it's on the, oh, well, she's the woman and believe the woman and the sister to the Traveling Pants co-stars and all of her friends and Gwyneth Paltrow all agree. Of course they are. That's the last thing I want to end on. Like, Blake Lively is so powerful. She's married to Ryan Reynolds, one of the most profitable actors in the business. Best friends with Taylor Swift, arguably one of the biggest celebrities in the world. Like, she's got sway, and she could stomp on Justin Baldoni, take away his rights, and amplify him as a sex pest like that if she wanted to. So you got to look at it all very carefully. And while I do think there's some stuff here Justin's going to have to explain, I also want to hear from him, and I can understand that maybe some of this needs to be, explained further because, look, we've all wanted to bury someone in our life. We say things in private when someone wrongs us, and that's why we have friends and say things in private and see what we do. It doesn't mean we followed through. It doesn't mean we did something criminal or retaliatory, and that's where I think we all need to be careful. But where do you think this is all going to net out? What are your final thoughts?
Oh my God, I think it's just going to be a long mess. And I think they're just going to both of them are just going to be dragged down into it. And I think, when you look at it, as you say, who wants to work with any of these people anymore? I mean, I wouldn't hire any of them. It's just too risky. And
both of them. Neither of them. I wouldn't want to work with either of these two.
No, me neither. Me neither. It just shows me, how dirty Hollywood is and how far people are willing to go to just like ruin each other. And I think it's just really sad.
Oh, Hollywood is nasty. Hollywood is gross. And welcome to PR. That's how it goes. Kirsty, though, Flaw, welcome. Please go support her over at Flawsome on YouTube. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. She will keep you updated. I love what you've been doing. Keep it up. We got your back here. Thank you so much for popping in. Guys, make sure you join me live. We'll be live in a few. We might be live now, so come join us. If you haven't subscribed to either Kirsty or I's channel, hit the subscribe, hit the bell for all alerts, smash the all so you get those breaking alerts. And when you do, smash the thumbs up. Leave a comment down below and stay tuned. We will got a lot more coverage for this and so much more. Ah, what a holiday season it has begun.